You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kelvin, and here to celebrate Valentine's Day with our beloved listeners. And with me today, well, she pulses unendingly all through the night. It's Councillor Amy. Good morning, Ginzabi.
I'm blushing over that intro. Well, hello. Happy Valentine's Day to you and to our listeners in a couple days.
Happy Valentine's Day. So yeah, we are recording a little ahead of time, but this episode will drop on the day before Valentine's Day, I believe. So if you're listening to this on release day and you've not been out and bought a card and presents for your other half, consider this your final warning to do so. So head to the shop quickly.
Yes, I've already purchased my dozen roses so that I could enjoy them this week because, you know, I can buy myself flowers.
She's an independent woman. How are you doing? How's your week been?
Oh, it's been great. I'm excited because after, we're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday, sports ball, I know, but I have some friends coming down from Utah that are flying in. So I get to hang out with friends today. Now Vegas does everything always big. So you can go down, we're going to go down to Fremont Street. We've rented a table at a sports book. And so we'll be there all day enjoying the game and the atmosphere. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Brilliant. And is it a public holiday on Monday, the day after Super Bowl Sunday? Because I can imagine there'll be a lot of sore heads at work on a Monday morning.
Fortunately, Clark County School District has the day off. I don't know why. I think it's a contingency day. So I have the day off, but everyone else has to work.
That's amazing. Oh, great. Oh, you'll have a lovely time.
Yeah. Well, how have you been this week?
I've been good. I've been doing quite a lot of traveling for work this week. So I spent 3 days in London earlier this week, which was lovely. And this weekend has been quite quiet. It was James's niece's 3rd birthday. So we went to see them guys over in Leeds yesterday. And I could not believe the amount of birthday presents children get these days. I always remember birthdays being the poor relation to Christmas in terms of gifts. And she had a party and there was about 20 children who attended this party and they all brought gifts. And I was like, oh, the house was covered in wrapping paper and gifts. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. I'm questioning my own parents now, thinking, why didn't you do that for me?
You know, I think it's a good thing that we're not parents because our kids would have like, all right, you get 3 gifts. I mean, what more do you need? Come on, kid.
Yeah. It all sounds very, very expensive. I don't know.
Yes, I know. Yeah. I mean, more power that the parents and can do that for them, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's get on with today's show.
It's joy and gratitude.
So for today, I'd like to mix it up a little bit. We always talk about what we're grateful for in the last week, but with this being a little bit of a Valentine's special, I want to hear about your favorite Valentine's Day gift, occasion, experience, something that's happened in the past. If you have one for me.
Yeah. So, listeners, here we have Kelvin, who has been in a relationship for, I don't know, how many is that? 57 gay years. I'm not quite sure the math on that.
Yeah, it's just slightly more than dog years, gay years is measured in, but in actual human years. Oh my God, I'm actually doing mental arithmetic now, trying to remember. This is our 12th year together.
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking 11. So 12 years. My goodness. So, yeah. So here you have Kelvin, who's been in a committed relationship for many, many years, asking a single person who's pretty much been single her entire life. What did I get for Valentine's Day? Well, let's see. What did I give myself? As I said, roses. But I'm going to have to say my favorite gift to myself was going on the Star Trek cruise. That's in February, so I'm counting it as a Valentine's gift to myself. I hope that
Lovely.
counts.
It does. Of course it does. Of course it does.
What about
Mine,
you?
yeah, the one that sticks out is the episode that we're going to review today. There's a scene with a bit of a scavenger hunt, a treasure hunt, where Troi is going through reading clues, and it leads you all to a little gift, and it's a piece of chocolate and then the slate carving. James actually recreated this around our old apartment, and he knew there was the old kind of 5-inch Playmate action figures that you see at all the conventions, like this one I'm holding up here. That was Picard. There's some First Contact era uniform next gen people which are quite rare, and he tracked them all down on eBay and bought them all for me, and the clues led me to them around the house. And I remember the final one was Beverly Crusher in the First Contact uniform. And that, he constantly reminds me, it's one of the most expensive things in our house. It's incredibly rare. So it can never come out of the packaging, and it's just there on display. But it was so cute, and it was just leading me around. And yeah, I treasure that. It was beautiful. So thank you, James.
Oh, how lovely. Now, do you guys do Valentine's? Are you big on that holiday together?
We do, there's always a card. We don't do massive gifts anymore. But we will certainly, it's Friday evening this year, so we'll be having a nice romantic meal at home, which I will cook, which is the way I give love. I'm a feeder. But then we have our good friends Joe and Ewan arriving the morning after from Scotland. So we'll be doing our Valentine's evening out as two couples. So that'll be nice. We get to share the love with them.
Oh, man, I wish I was there. Gosh darn it.
You have been seeing literally every Star Trek fan in America over the last few months. So let the Brits have their moments.
I know, but it's so fun. Well, that'll be wonderful.
Oh, well, I think I've given the game away already, but for those of them who have not cottoned on yet, would you like to tell the listeners what we are covering for our episode today?
Well, we are going back to our Transporter Malfunction series, and it really surprised me that we hadn't covered this already. But this is part 4, and we are covering Next Generation Second Chances, where we have a transporter duplicate of William Riker is found on Nervala 4, where he's been stranded there alone for the last 8 years. His first order of business is to pick up where he left off with his Imzadi, Deanna Troi.
Oh, I love this episode.
It's so good.
I'm not a slushy kind of romantic person myself. I'm usually here for the science and the continuity and the pew pew pew, as I say. But there's something about the romance in this episode that I don't find it sickly sweet. I just really go with it, and I believe in it. It's such a great story.
Yeah, and listeners, if you have not read David Mack's Imzadi, please, because that book fills in so much of this backstory of what Thomas is remembering, what Deanna is remembering. And that, I have read that book at least 4 times mean, it's
Wow.
that good. But yeah, it fills in and just gives the context so that when you watch this episode, it's like, whoa, there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, and I think a way to evaluate this is to look at both sides of the equation here. So, we'll explore the Deanna side of the relationship, where she is, the temptations, but let's start with, well, both Rikers, I guess. It's a 2-for-1. Um, so, I mean, let's start with an obvious question. How would you feel, Amy, if you met a duplicate of yourself? Two
You
Amy's. Wow.
know, well, if you followed my Facebook, there's a clone or when your account gets hacked and there's two of you there, that's the closest I've come to. And it was interesting because Data pointed it out when Data and Worf were talking, and Data was analyzing just sort of like what it would feel like, and he pointed out that like humans value their uniqueness. Like that's what we like, being, unique, and sets us apart from others so that we have this feeling of specialness. And so to lose that just one day, wake up and it's like, oh, there's two Amy's, that is something to really consider. And how would you go about it, setting yourself apart from Thomas Riker, from your twin or whatever? I guess the closest thing would be, twins. How would you feel, Kelvin?
I would struggle, if I'm honest. And I think this is the conversation that Data and Worf were having. I'm quite self-critical. So I guess it would manifest in, I would be critical. I would dislike the double of myself for all of the reasons I dislike about myself currently. And I feel it would probably be amplified in some way. So I don't know. I don't know how I would appreciate, celebrate, have a relationship, friendship, whatever, with that person. And it is interesting that you use the twin analogy, because I don't know how twins are like that. You always hear about this intense, close bond of love between twin siblings, whereas I could imagine I would be a horrendous twin. So yeah, I don't think it is something I would like to experience.
When Riker and Thomas, they do so much in the episode to just, they are different. They've had different experiences the last 8 years, and their relationship with Deanna is different. But you still know that they are the same person. And it happens twice in the episode that I remember. Once when they're playing poker and Thomas comes in to join them, and they know each other. They're like, oh, I know that face. I know, and then the second time when Thomas leaves Deanna to go off for his career, where it's like, that was who William T. Riker is. They know each other because they are the same person, and he is going to follow his career because that's what he did the first time. So of course he's going to do it the second time. So it's this weird, they're different, but yet they are the same. Ooh, tricky.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, in that you saw the same behaviors from both Rikers. And I want to explore the jealousy aspect. I get that Thomas Riker was jealous of all the years that William Riker had for the experiences of the last 8 years of his life that he missed. And then Will Riker was jealous that Thomas picked up with Deanna. So this is very hypothetical now. How would, expanding that, what would you think of your double? How would you feel if your double went with one of your exes? Wow. To me, that is a massive mind photon torpedo noise.
Yeah, but then I keep thinking, but will this Amy and that ex, like, would I have compassion for the ex or would I have compassion for my twin? Because it's like, I already tried that and you're going to try it again. No, it's not going to work. Or, oh my gosh, my ex is going to have to try this again with me, who I know that I'm going to make the same choice. Like, would you feel sorry for your ex or for your double?
Well, I think it depends on the ex, first of all. So in this scenario here in the episode, it's clearly, Will and Deanna are great friends. They're on great terms. So, I'm sure we've all had relationships that ended badly. We've had relationships that maybe transitioned into like a friend zone situation. So I'm looking at this through the friend zone lens. So if my double went with one of my exes who I managed to remain friends with after it ended, I wouldn't be concerned. I would be very confused if I saw the relationship working, because you'd think causality, that's the same person as me. That's clearly them still. So what's different? That is the timing, the environmental factors would come into play of it's now working. So then you'd think, well, if we were still together, would it work for us now? So it is very, very you could go headlong into evaluating this area.
Yeah, and when Troi goes to Commander Riker into his quarters, and basically he's like, well, you don't need my permission to date him. And it's like that whole conversation's so difficult to have on both parts. But when Commander Riker is like, I recognize that look in your eye. You used to have it for me. Oh my gosh, that just like is gut wrenching. And so, yeah, it's like, is he jealous of their relationship that's starting again?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think he is. And I love the placing of this episode in the series at the very end of season 6, which just leaves, one more season plus the movies. And I think this is the restart of the relationship subconsciously, because then this extends into how clearly Will starts reacting when she starts seeing Worf. And then we get to Insurrection, where everything restarts properly. So we're only talking a few years between them actually getting back together properly and here. So I think it's you mentioned the book Imzadi. I think that book is required reading because we've had 6 years of not knowing about this relationship. Only the fact that it did happen, and clearly it didn't end in a bad way, because they still managed to develop a friendship while serving together. So yeah, it's really interesting. I love the nature nurture argument in psychology of development. How much of our behavior is genetic and predisposed, and how much of it is based on our environment and external factors. So yeah, just seeing Deanna with Tom, I really felt for her, because we don't want her to be hurt twice. We don't know that was guaranteed to happen, but you were led into thinking it would be.
Yeah, and at the very end, when Riker tells Troi to be careful, and I was like, oh, is that because he's jealous? But it goes sort of to what you're saying with, does he know his nature, or does he believe that this 8 years of nurturing in this different environment of Thomas constantly thinking about Deanna, and we get to hear his beautiful, eloquent words he was always thinking of her. Wouldn't that have changed him enough to say, my career be damned? Like, could you trust yourself? Can Commander Riker trust Thomas that those 8 years changed him enough? I would think so.
I would too. And 8 years is a long time.
Long time.
I reflect on myself and my own attitudes towards my career. You know, I've worked at the same business for 15 years. This is my 16th year. And when I started, it was very much climbing the greasy pole to the top as quickly as possible. And then I achieved. I became a member of the board. Found the role very, very, very stressful, and then stepped down after a few years. Whereas now it's, you know, as long as I make enough money to do what I want to do in my personal life and I'm fulfilled by the tasks that I'm doing and the relationships in the workplace, there isn't that huge drive to be at the top of the business. So I wonder if the time alone on Nervala 4 offered Thomas Riker the chance to say, you know what, maybe career isn't the most important thing after all. And he considered what was important. It's a little bit like the pandemic. If you think of lockdowns, I don't know what it's like in America, but here in the UK, attitudes towards employment has massively differed. So when people came out of lockdown, people didn't want to return to work full time. There's a huge uprising in the amount of people being self-employed. And because people have reevaluated that family comes first and family is the most important.
Right. And you're going to be stranded alone for 8 years. Yeah, you're going to reevaluate. Career's not going to be important. Community is going to be important, right? What you build, those relationships. I just feel being left alone that you're going to come in and you're going to want to get a community because you have been isolated for so long.
Yeah. Let's flip this on its head now. So imagine that you are the duplicate. So you're not the original Amy Nelson anymore. You're changeling Amy. You're duplicate. How would you feel towards the original version of you? Would you feel that resentment of that lost experience?
Absolutely. I mean, who's to say that that other Amy Nelson, I've lived for 8 years. Who are you? You finally come and rescue me? Like, we get this perspective because we're coming at it that ours is Commander Riker. But it could have been Thomas Riker. Like, his life is no less insignificant. We just know it because we're the viewers of, Commander Riker. But his life is still significant and important, and it's his life. Like, I would be really pissed that there was another Amy that got off the ship or whatever, got off the planet, went back. It would be distraught. I can't imagine, because everyone that you now knows that other Amy. Oh,
Yeah, it's hard.
yeah.
I think it must be similar to following in the footsteps of a successful sibling. So if you're like the younger child and your older sibling is very well liked, regarded, respected, loved, and has achieved, then you must feel constantly like you're being measured against them. And how do you feel towards them? I don't actually have that problem because I'm the good sibling. So I'm again looking at this through the workplace lens of, if there was another version of me at work and they received all of the compliments, opportunities, promotion, and I was, for whatever reason, left behind, like, on Nervala 4, yeah, I would stew on that, and that would really go into my grudge bag until it exploded. And I don't think I'd be waiting 8 years. It would probably not even be 8 months. So I would hugely struggle not being the popular one in the two of me.
Right. Yes. And even going to their familial relationships with, Dad Riker, and how Commander or William has, sort of made amends and that little talk. And it's like, oh, I guess we better let dad know. And is like, oh, I don't care about him. And it's like, well, we've sort of, patched things together. And it's like, what? How is that even possible? Like, because the reasons are still there in Thomas Riker's mind, right? So that would be freaky weird that it's like not even my family relationships are the same.
Yeah. Wow. So pretty hard situation for Riker, whichever way you look at it, whichever Will or Tom you evaluate. Shall we move on to Deanna? And
Yes.
let's explore this situation from her perspective. This is a pretty big question, which I hope you don't mind me asking, but the whole getting back with an ex, is this ever a good idea?
I feel that she went in cautiously. I think she had to evaluate, okay, Thomas is in a different place than Will. My relationship could be the same. It might be different. Man, that's so difficult. I'm very surprised that she considered the idea because how healthy her and Will's relationship is. So it was a little shocking, but I have to agree with her. Like, if you didn't take the chance, you would regret it, I feel.
I'm just going to probe a little bit further there, if I may then. So you said you're surprised she went there because of how the strength of her relationship with Will Riker. So do you think that means Deanna had something in her that was maybe disappointed or wanted something more with Will Riker, wasn't going to get it, and saw that she could with Tom? Or to me, it seems, that whole thing of ruining a friendship if you take it that step
Yes.
further. Now, clearly, she's not taking the step further with William, but there is a huge risk there that this could have ruined their friendship.
Well, but do you think it could have? Because she was like, we've both dated other people before, although this is unique, but Deanna's had her fair share of trysts, has Will? I mean, he was more of a player at the beginning of the season or beginning of the series. But I don't
Oh,
know. I feel like they had a healthy relationship going back and forth and supportive. I don't know. I think it
I
could
al-
have
yeah, I always view Will
worked.
and Deanna's relationship in Star Trek as somewhat overlooked in a way. Everybody always gravitates towards Worf and Dax, Tom and B'Elanna, even Miles and Keiko, and you forget, like, hello, Will and Deanna. It's one of the most central relationships. And to me, their relationship is almost like an open relationship. It's almost like they always remained together, but we're still seeing other people. Now, clearly, Riker loves a good old one night stand. So that's, again, akin to an open relationship. And I think just the reality of a new episode, you move on, they are all inherently one night stands. So that's kind of, to me, in my head, kind of maintain the, people just come and go and are transient, but we will always be together, which is quite common in gay relationships. So to me, it was like, yeah, that's the way I always made sense of it. With me, my aspect on the Deanna going there is almost a professional concern of, was it appropriate given that she's the ship's counselor and he is someone who's just gone through a massive traumatic ordeal of not only 8 years of not seeing a single person, which I think they massively underplayed. He seemed to just slot back into everything, into society really easily. And B, for someone who is struggling with that psychological, coming to terms with the fact of the duplicate, then thrusting into a relationship. I just think it was quite unethical of Deanna to. She should have shut it down, I think.
Yeah, that is unfortunate that she's the only ship's counselor. And this situation comes up where it's like, this is the one person that needs to have okay, I'm tapping out professionally because the personal is definitely too huge to consider professionally. Yeah, I agree with you, but what else are you going to do? And she does not address that of him being isolated for so long. She could have said, hey, I know you have these feelings because besides yourself, I'm the only other person that you know since leaving Narvala. Is that, yeah, Narvala 4. Like, that's gonna play with, okay, you're gonna automatically be drawn to me because I'm the only one you know. That's you've got to set some boundaries there professionally.
It's
And she
almost a little
didn't.
bit like Stockholm syndrome of, where people fall in love with the captor. Will's
Mhm.
feelings towards Deanna may not have actually been, not Will, beg your pardon, Thomas Riker's, may not have been fully authentically genuine. It might have
Right.
been a result of being rescued, etc. So, and Deanna should recognize those kind of situations and almost protected herself from that happening to her. Because something that wasn't referenced a lot in the episode was Deanna's Betazoid abilities. The fact she sensed this romance coming from Tom.
Mhm.
There could have been some lines of dialogue, maybe with her and Beverly, to say it's not really a risk because I know that's how he feels, so he would have me back.
Mhm. Mhm.
Sometimes getting back with an ex is, how do they now feel about me? Especially if it's someone who's transitioned into friend zone. And if I may, get a little personal, I had a very short relationship, good 15, 20 years ago, following a holiday romance. Excuse me. And we were together just under a year. We broke up. And then several years later, we reconnected as friends, and we had a fantastic friendship.
Hmm.
And maybe 18 months, 2 years into our friendship, my feelings returned, and I
Oh.
wanted to get back together, and he didn't. And he
Mm.
said, I love our friendship, and I don't want to change the nature of this relationship. And I couldn't fathom it. I
Mm.
was thinking, but you was attracted to me once, so why aren't you now? What's the difference? What's changed? And that I just could not compute or comprehend why you would be attracted to someone at one point in time and then not another.
Mhm.
And especially since you put a lot of work and the relationship is better than it's ever been because it had the friendship aspect. So yeah, I don't think Troi should have pursued that. I don't know. Have you ever gone back there, Amy? Have you ever opened the X Files?
Oh, um, I have not had too many long, significant relationships. I was dating a guy, was a chef here at one of the casinos at the Wynn, and we, met and had a good time. But he was sort of still climbing, and I don't know, there was a mismatch in our careers, like where we were in our careers. And so that sort of, his hours didn't work with mine as a teacher. I mean, so he got further. So we ended it, and then we reconnected like a year later. And I was thinking, well, maybe circumstances had changed because it didn't work out. And so I thought maybe this would be a safe thing to try because our circumstances are different. Yeah, it didn't work out. We tried again, and that was when I was like, it doesn't make sense logically to go back. If it didn't work the first time, it's not going to work again, which is interesting when we are looking and talking about this story of second chances of could it work again? Oh, and then we know because this is a 30 plus year old show that Riker and Troi do end up. So they believe in second
Okay.
chances. I do not.
Yeah, I think it might be the only example I know of people getting back together and it does work. Clearly, we know Riker and Troy get their happy ever after. Um,
Mhm.
Something from Deanna's perspective that I've struggled with is if Riker hurt her so much by choosing his career, and she accepted that posting on the Enterprise, knowing that he would be first officer.
Mm,
I'm curious.
she was posted first, remember, Calvin?
Was she? Okay,
Because
so
when they go pick up him at Encounter at Farpoint, she's
yeah,
already ship's counselor.
right. So do you think she didn't actually know?
Right. I think Riker came after her appointment.
Interesting. Oh, I just assumed the senior staff would have kind of known who was joining the ship all at the same time. So I've always explored it of it was either incredibly brave or incredibly short-sighted that, and under no
Mm,
circumstances should Deanna have passed up this career opportunity to serve on the
mhm.
flagship. But I think it definitely would have been a consideration if she knew that she would be, in essence, working closely with and subordinate to someone who's broken her heart so
Mm.
recently. So I
Huh.
think that's fascinating.
Now, but that is now I'm wondering, like, come on, Continuum, Calvin. Because does she say that she accepted the Enterprise knowing that he was? Did she reveal that in this episode?
I'm thinking of both Encounter at Farpoint and the flashback scenes in All Good Things. So in Farpoint, there is the incredibly cheesy scene with the plinky plonky music when Riker beams aboard and Picard introduces
Yes.
him, and she's walking down the slope of the bridge and saying, "Can you still sense my mind in Zardi?"
Yes.
So that leads you to believe that Riker didn't know Troy was on board. But
Mhm.
then in All Good Things, when Troy is in the ready room and Picard is talking to Riker on his little desk monitor, and there's a version of All Good scene where this scene is actually cut, but in the full feature, she says, "I need to talk to you about Commander Riker. We've had a previous relationship," and there
Right.
was no surprise there. She went in and she just delivered it, which makes me think Deanna did know he
Knew
was
first.
first officer.
Yeah. Okay. That's why I have that. Yeah. Yeah.
Almost the
So
episode.
then So kudos to her for accepting that. But I think, after those 6 years of him pulling away and as she said in the episode, like we lost contact, we just weren't talking as much. Like there comes a point where if someone's not communicating with you, that's their choice. They have made a choice, and how am I going to accept that they don't want to be with me? So I have to move on and, deal with those feelings, put them away, have my closure, then to go and work with them. I think it's very possible. I think
Yeah,
that's
I
possible.
I respect her for doing it. Actually, the
Mhm.
more I think about this, you shouldn't you shouldn't let these things stand in the way of opportunities from a career or personal growth perspective. The fact that she was willing to get on with it is great, which then brings us to the kind of the finality of, was Deanna right in her decision to choose the Enterprise over Thomas Riker? In the end, she decided, I'm not willing to leave my career and go with you off on, was it the Gandhi? So she chose the Enterprise at the end of this episode over Thomas Riker. Was she right to do that, Amy?
Oh, it's very, very difficult. Yeah. Because yes and no. I can really see it both ways. Unfortunately, Next Generation is episodic. So we get this zero sum game of it's either my way or the highway. And I'm going to choose the Enterprise, and you're going to choose your career, and I'm choosing my career. And then no one wins in the love game. But I was thinking, like, personally, it depends on where I would be in the career if I decided to choose love or choose my career. At the beginning, I wanted my post. I wanted the school that I wanted to be at. That was most important. But then as I got older and I was like, anywhere, everyone needs a math teacher. So if I found love, I would be willing to move anywhere and get a job, and then I get to have it all. So Troi could have, at that point, she is counselor of the Enterprise. She is at the top. She could have her pick. And if she wanted to choose Thomas, then wherever he went, oh yeah, I'm going to be counselor on that ship. Right?
Yeah.
So they could have been together.
Yeah,
What?
I think you're absolutely right. In careers such as the military, postings change all the time. You are
Right.
sent from here and there. And I think it's one of the few examples in Star Trek where you see people choosing to stay put because of the relationships they have. I mean, funnily enough, one of the only other examples is Riker refusing his promotions.
Mm-hmm.
So almost maybe she reconsidered, maybe it was a great excuse. Maybe she just chickened out in the end of going with Tom and said, use staying on the Enterprise as a little bit of a, it's not you, it's me. Because you're right, she could have, she's been the counselor on the flagship of the Federation with over 1,000 people for 7 years. She
Mm-hmm.
could have walked into any job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that is a pretty comprehensive evaluation of every side of the argument. So, whatever side the listeners are on, I think they can't accuse us of not being balanced in our approach.
Yes.
Shall we take a look at some assimilations and regenerations for the episode itself? Would you like to start us off, Amy, with your
Oh,
assimilation?
yes. Okay. My favorite scene is when after the scavenger hunt and they're in 10 forward and Thomas comes up and they're, professing their love for each other. And he's like, I was down there and I would look up in the stars and I was just hoping that you could feel that I was thinking of you. I mean, this man has had a one sided relationship with Deanna Troi for 8 years. I mean, let's just be honest. And the, oh, when Deanna confesses that she also would look up into the stars, and that vulnerability that they had with each other, absolutely hugely love that scene. And there's something about looking up in the stars, because that also is one of my favorite moments in Nemesis when Shinzon and Picard are saying that they would look up to the stars, in hopes of exploration and stuff like that. So I don't know. There's something about when you look up that longingness, it just is beautiful. And it was
Yeah.
done perfectly in this episode.
Agreed. It could easily have come off quite cheesy if not executed correctly in the script. But there's something about it, and I don't know if it's just because we love these characters so much that we find it so genuine, but it just
Mm-hmm.
works, doesn't it? I love at the beginning of the episode, my assimilation is the Nightbird scene. And it sets the tone beautifully for where their relationship is here and now at the start of that episode, that they can comfortably rib each other about things from the past
Mm-hmm.
and just really play practical jokes, and it's just all forgotten, and there's no malice, there's no bad feelings about when they were together, it's all love. So
Mm-hmm.
that kind of her shouting, play Nightbird, when she knows he can't do it. She's purposely trying to embarrass him publicly, and it's not done out of malice. It's cute. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, that just feeds into my next assimilation. Like Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis, if you've heard them talk on any panel or anywhere, you know that they wanted a Troi Riker relationship, and it is just shown in their acting and how these two actors can pull off the different types of relationship that interchange at the 10 forward about Nightbird. Absolutely. Their friendship, you still get the history between them, but they're in a good place. But then you go to 10 forward with Will or Thomas and Deanna, and hot and steamy, talking about the waterfall.
Janarin Falls.
Yes, Janarin Falls. And then, that from Imzadi. They just play the part, if it's friendship, if it's hot and steamy, perfectly.
And speaking of relationships and the way they play it, this episode is one of many examples in the final kind of 2 seasons of TNG of the great relationship between Beverly and Deanna as well. I love Beverly's contributions in this episode. She is so encouraging and gossiping and behaves like you would with one of your closest girlfriends. That whole scene about then what happened? Yeah. She wants all the gossip. I love it. And you didn't get those accurate depictions of female relationships in the earlier seasons of TNG. When we got some really good quality Beverly and Deanna scenes in season 6 and 7, and it was so earned and so genuine. It was great. So Beverly doesn't have a huge amount in this episode, but what she did, I just thought Gates absolutely smashed it in her delivery.
So can I ask you, I guess a political question? Those scenes, I too, like you, love them. I adore them. They're perfect. I do that with my girlfriends, dating, chit. But it doesn't pass the Bechtold test, right? Like here you have 2 women talking about a man, and that's been, frowned on, and because it's women aren't having important discussion. But I love it in this episode because it is such a relationship heavy episode. Are you okay that we see the 2 women talking about a man? Sometimes it's been demonized, but I love it because I do it.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but there's balance. If all they did was talk about a man, then I would take issue. But the other great scenes you have with Beverly and Troi, there's the great one in Eye of Beholder where, Troy's considering the bridge officer's test and Beverly's on the bridge, and they talk about career and wanting to do more with your life. There's not a hint of anything to be about because of a man. So the fact that their relationship is so multifaceted, to me, it fits not only the episode, but it fits their relationship. And actually, really coincidentally, myself and James were having a conversation earlier today. He doesn't rate the back end of Deep Space Nine because he feels that the strong women in Jadzia Dax and Kira were ruined because they just became somebody's girlfriend. They made Kira get with Odo, they put Jadzia with Worf, and then every storyline they had was they were just the girlfriend. So I take issue in that scenario. I feel the same as James, but in this, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we may have even ventured into regenerations a little bit there, but formally, what are you regenerating for this episode?
Okay, I don't know who was in charge of the costuming and the wigs, but Troy's wig looks like it came from the wig party. What is up with the what are they called? The spiral curls? What are they called? Ringlets. I did not what and she looked beautiful, and then she had this ringlet wig that was pulled back. I didn't understand that. And if Riker on a station for 8 years, why is he still wearing tattered clothes? You can't tell me that there's not another uniform on that station that he couldn't be rotating his clothes. I'm just saying.
That's a really good point. I've not considered that. I mean, from a continuity and uniform, I'm just glad that they used the season 1, season 2 uniforms. Otherwise, I would have completely lost my shit if they used the wrong uniform. Special shout out to Kristin, who can't make it with us today, but she was messaging last night saying that her and Justin were saying, why does Thomas Riker have exactly the same beard as William Riker? Wouldn't he have chosen to still be babyface Riker? And I'm wondering if that discussion was considered but rejected because it would have been too complex to film the scenes if he was clean shaven in half of them. But then I said, I can't imagine the grooming facilities on Navarre 4 were maybe available. So I was just surprised it wasn't a bit actually more,
Scruffy. Yeah. Now his beard is different.
Yeah.
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 Because it's more filled in. Like William has a goatee beard, and then Thomas, it's more filled in underneath the lower lip. Because I looked
I
at that
didn't know
too. Yeah.
that.
So I think that was just like fake hairs underneath. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they made that a difference to demonstrate, but that completely missed me. Yeah, you were really there on the hair and makeup in this, Amy, noticing Troy's bad wig and Riker's beard. I certainly didn't. I didn't like, and I will forgive because this was a long time ago and production kind of ability and technology isn't as great as it is now. But the scene with Riker where he grabs himself on the shoulder and spins him round and shouts, I gave you an order, Lieutenant. I cringe a little bit at that. It was the blocking, the directing. It just didn't work for me. I thought, too cringe.
Okay. Going on with that. I'm sorry, LeVar Burton, who was the director. The camera angles, some of them, and mostly with Jonathan Frakes talking commander to Thomas, like it felt fake, contrived, like very stiff of these camera angles. It did not bode well. And maybe, I mean, because it was always with Will and Thomas, that camera angle added to the friction between them two. But I don't know. I was not a fan of the camera angles.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look at some trivia. There's some great trivia, actually, from when I was researching earlier. Would you like to start off, Amy?
Yeah. So Michael Medlock's story of duplicating Will Riker was nearly rejected until the writers decided to use the concept to explore the romance with Deanna Troi. Renee Echeverria recalled, we'd always talked about the fact that they used to be involved and now they weren't. And Second Chances was our chance to tell a story about them. And it did.
In the early stages of writing the episode, Jerry Taylor and the writing staff considered killing off William Riker and having Thomas join the Enterprise D's crew as his replacement. So Thomas would have become the ops officer, and then Data would have been promoted to first officer.
Oh my gosh. That's a what if I've never even considered. That would have been awesome. Leave it to Jerry Taylor. She's brilliant.
Indeed.
Well, a major reason for Berman's refusal of the Riker swap was the then tentative plans to bring Next Generation cast to the big screen. He recalled, basically, you're putting a character on the ship who has not experienced anything of the last 6 years and doesn't know any of the characters. Instead, Pillar proposed the twist that both Rikers should live. I mean, what other show could do it? Hint, hint.
I know
Cute.
it's not often we praise Rick Berman for a good decision, but I think in fairness, he made the right call there.
Mm-hmm.
Brannon Braga suggested the treasure hunt scene based on his own romantic experiences. And he says, when all else fails, try the treasure hunt. It worked with Troi. God.
Oh, dear. Well, according to Ronald D. Moore, the working title of this episode was Too Many Rikers. That would have been complimenting Fistful of Datas.
Yeah, I like it. This was the very first Star Trek series episode directed by LeVar Burton. With the many complex visual effects, Burton considered it a real baptism of fire. And he remarked, I had one actor playing two different characters, and those characters continually interacted throughout the course of the story. And it was incumbent upon me to figure out how to accomplish that. I felt if I could pull this off without sinking the ship, I really had a possible future as a director.
See, I think framing with the one actor doing two characters, I think poses more difficulties than I understand. So,
Tough gig for your first job.
yeah. Well, if you didn't notice who was at the transporter, that would have been Dr. Mae Jemison, the first female African American astronaut in space. And she has a cameo as Palmer. LeVar Burton cast Jemison as he knew that she had credited Nichelle Nichols' role as Uhura in Star Trek, the original series, as an inspiration. Burton commented, it was magic. I remember thinking, oh my God, this is so cool. And it is.
It really is. It's so understated, underplayed, not part of the story. It's something for the fans, and it's beautiful. It's a real full circle. You know, it shows the effect Star Trek has on people. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, final thoughts. So let's start with our traditional Who Did It Better first. So this is only episode 4. We've previously covered Enterprise's Daedalus and the original series Enemy Within, plus one more episode that I cannot find on our episode list. So it must be a very, very early episode of All Good Things. I can't find the first one.
Oh, I thought that this was a trivia because I know you liked doing your trivia.
Yeah. No, if it is, it's a question I can't answer. So maybe maybe some of our long-term listeners would be able to correct me there. But we're going to have to just go with what we've got. So who did it better? Transporter accidents. Was it Daedalus or Enemy Within, Amy?
Oh, well, obviously this one. It's a Deanna Troi story. It's a Riker story. It's TNG. I do like the Enemy Within, though. I am going to say that. I sort of forgot what Daedalus, what transporter is that?
It was the creator of the transporter trying to rescue his son, who had seen a transporter accident.
Yes, that is a good story. Yeah, I'm still going second chances.
I feel we're in full agreement today, Amy. This is not only a great episode, it's a great example of a transporter accident. And the fact it is credited so much in Lower Decks with the William Boimler storyline as a homage to it. And again, obviously in Deep Space Nine with Thomas Riker, and they talk about this episode so much. I think it is a celebrated transporter accident. So I'm also going with this episode. But as terms of final thoughts, I've got one last question. So Will Riker gave Thomas his trombone as he said it technically belonged to both of them. What would you give your duplicate as a going away present?
Wow, that is a really good question. And so I'm thinking, okay, what would my Amy, my duplicate self want? I've gotten further away from playing the piano. I mean, I would, similar to Riker, maybe give myself the keyboard because there was a time in my life where I didn't have anything to play, and that really made me sad. So I would give myself a keyboard. What about you?
Well, flippantly, I would say I'd give them my job so they could just go to work for me. Uh, but if we're thinking tangible, I guess I'd have to half my Star Trek merchandise with them.
Mm,
So I guess they're not having the Beverly Crusher action figure.
no.
James would get mad. But yeah, I guess we'd have to divide up the rest of it because I
Hmm.
would love to think that other Kelvin is just as big a Star Trek fan as me.
Yeah.
And if not, they're not the same person.
Yeah.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristin. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey and Mitch, self-proclaimed gamers who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for the Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through Star Trek Cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam Aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into beta canon with Peter, host of the Trek Book Club on Twitter and Bluesky, and his companion Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Treksperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey and MC. If you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch The View Screen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with new 8-week seasons in the spring and fall. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with an LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea Bev. And for our patron members, we have the Hive Mind with script readings and roundtable discussion, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, and Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. You can keep up with all of these shows by following the network at BQN Podcasts on Instagram and Bluesky. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Right, Amy. Okay, well, here we are. We talk now about what are we doing next week. So it's an interesting question for us. What are we doing next week?
Well, we, Kelvin and I, will be hosting season 3 of The View Screen. That's right, it is returning, your Sunday morning talk show inspired by Star Trek. We'll be back for an 8-week run. We're very excited. Please follow us on YouTube. And we're going to be starting Sundays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. UK.
That's right. So All Good Things is taking a little bit of a hiatus to allow myself and Amy to do the view screen, but also we're going to be joined by Kristin as normal, and even Christos is going to make a couple of appearances this season too. So the whole All Good Things gang is present, but we've got a great mix of people coming on who have never previously, but also some returning favorites from our beloved Trek family. And yeah, it's all come together in the planning stage, so we're out ready to launch next week. We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, and our Discord server to continue the discussion there. You can also reach us at AllGoodPod on Bluesky, so make sure you give us a follow. We've partnered with our friends at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching the master feed, and the links can be found in the show notes. So, Amy, where can people find you when you're not running around the Enterprise D finding clues left by lost loves?
Oh, well, when I am not doing that, you can find me here on the network where I'm co-hosting Union Federation. And right now we are talking all things Orville and doing our character review. You can, of course, find me on the view screen starting next week on YouTube. I am on Bluesky having a great time over there. Please find me at Counselor Amy and on our Discord server. So, Kelvin, where can people find you when you're taking your duplicate to the gym so that you can have a spotter?
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Right? You would do that, I'm sure.
I probably would. And I would be in competition with them too, over who could lift the most. When I'm not doing that, you can find me on most of the social platforms at Kelvin's Timeline, or you can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook group, or like Amy says, you can find me here on the network for the next 8 weeks, live on Sundays on the view screen. And we really do hope most of you can join in live or just watch us on catch up if you're not able to get us. Yeah, we can't wait. Here on BQN Podcast, we will never hear a commercial on one of our shows. And if you'd like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, commercial free, you can do so by becoming a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Let's Play reaction show. You can enjoy script readings and other perks. So visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages.
And if becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, or hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, leaving us a 5-star rating and a written review. That really does help others find our show. We really do need your help, especially with the view screen. Go over to YouTube, like, subscribe. We really need help. People can find our podcast, but sometimes the YouTube, we're still working on that. So please share that with all of your friends.
At this time, we would like to thank our own associate producers, Mahendran Radhakrishnan and JJ Seastrum. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and of course, to all of our listeners, who we send a heartfelt thanks. Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us as we search out
all good things.